Tony DeSilva is 41 years old. He still lives at home with his mother. In fact, if you looked in his bedroom, you would see a room that you thought was a child's room. But he works. He works in a facility for those, I understand, that are challenged, and he works the night shift. But in addition to that, he not only manages, but he owns the Massachusetts Maple Leafs, which is a hockey league for kids. I'll give you the details later on, but he brags on having over 600 wins, 7 league championships. He sent 160 players since he's owned the league in 1997 to advanced or higher hockey programs. But not only does he brag on those accomplishments, but he also sexually assaults children. He not only coaches and manages hockey teams, but he goes on Facebook and he seeks out 16-year-old kids. And that's what happened in this county. We received a call from a mother who said, hey, there's this weirdo, and he's trying to say nasty things to my children on Facebook. Well, what do we always do in this county? We encourage moms and dads to manage the Facebook accounts of their children, and a concerned mother did. She also gave us permission to take over the identity of her 16-year-old child and converse with Tony DeSilva. So over the next few weeks, this all began around July 20th, we were conversing. And then we moved from Facebook to texting. And he said some very nasty things. He sent us a nude partial picture of himself while he was at work. According to him, he took this while he was in the bathroom. He also encouraged the kids to send nude pictures of themselves, and he told them in explicit graphic detail what he wanted to do with them and what he wanted to do to them. Now, as this investigation's going on, this undercover investigation, the same mother calls us up again and said, hey, one of my son's friends at this very same time that apparently he met through my son's Facebook is also being solicited by this same hockey coach from Massachusetts. So we went to the parents of the second child and received permission to act as that person in an undercover capacity. So now our detectives, which are simply the best in the nation, were working undercover and pretending to be 2 different young boys. And the conversation went on. Tony DeSilva encouraged them to come to Massachusetts. And that's kind of what happened yesterday when our undercover detective and his sergeant, who was pretending to be 2 16-year-old boys, went to Massachusetts. And that's where we arrested Tony DeSilva. We asked him if he was familiar with Polk County, Florida, and he said, no. We said, you will be. We're going to take you to jail and lock you up there. This was all possible because we worked with Brad Copley from the State Attorney's Office, as we always do, hand in glove, where Tony was charged with 10 counts of use of a computer to seduce a child and 1 count transmission of material harmful to children. We also worked with the state troopers from Massachusetts, where they obtained a search warrant as well. So we arrested Tony DeSilva. He confessed. We also seized evidence from his home. He's in custody in Massachusetts. It's my understanding that within just the last few minutes, he's waived extradition and will be returning to Polk County, Florida, and being placed in our county jail on Friday afternoon. But what's important to us is to understand that he had this hockey league in the same age frame, 20 and under, that he seemed to be sexually interested in. And he focused on young boys. He focused on boys around 15, 16 years of age. We made it abundantly clear that we were juveniles. We made it abundantly clear that it was illegal. He even admitted that he could get in trouble, and we had to be careful. But as it would be, our detectives did what they do best, and we were able to successfully bring this person in custody in Massachusetts. Assistant State Attorney Brad Copley will certainly be prosecuting him here. And we want the people that may see this broadcast in Massachusetts to ask for other victims. Who are other victims out there? Now, it's our understanding that if you're in Massachusetts, even if you're 41, you can have sex with someone 16 or older. That's not the case in the state of Florida. But I suggest to you, and history shows us, and research shows us, that if we are naive enough to think that he's keeping this to children of age of consent, that's just not correct. There are victims out there. He chased these two boys over this Facebook too hard. He's chased other children that we don't know about. And with the help of the media, help of the local media, we can make sure that this sexual deviant is never able to prey on anyone, whether it be in Florida or Massachusetts or any place else in the nation. See if I've covered everything. Brad, do you have any comments before we take questions?
I think you've covered it all. The first 10 counts are second-degree felonies, punishable by up to 15 years imprisonment. The last count, count 11, the transmission of harmful material, is a third-degree felony, punishable by up to 5 years.
We also want to thank the New York, or not New York, but the Massachusetts State Troopers for helping us in this investigation. Questions?
Sheriff, why do you think, or how do you think he got in touch with these two boys in Polk County?
We don't know specifically how he did that, other than the fact he was linked. We know that he was online, he was Facebooking. We know that he was looking for young boys. We know that he would immediately talk about inappropriate things. His statements would be inappropriate to children, to young boys. He would talk about how, would just send me a picture of your chest without a shirt on. That really excites me. And even this one child, this one 16-year-old, went to his mom and said, hey, there's this weirdo here that I'm very uncomfortable with. She immediately called the sheriff's office. She knows our reputation in this county for going after child predators. And as a result, we were investigating this case when not us, but the original mother of the 16-year-old said, hey, I've heard from another person that he's interfaced with him as well. So we believe he was trolling the internet. More specifically, he was trolling Facebook for children. And he caught the sheriff's office undercover detectives because of the help of the community. And now we plan to lock him up in the Florida State prison system. And by the way, it doesn't get cold here, but we don't have air conditioning either, and it gets mighty hot in the state of Florida in the state prisons. And that's where we're going to put you. You're never, ever going to have access to kids again. But there are other victims. I'm confident of it based on research, based on a lot of history, and certainly the Massachusetts State Police and local law enforcement in Massachusetts need for parents and children to come forward. We need to box this up. We need to box this guy up really good, and we can do that with the community's help.
Was he arrested in his home?
Excuse me?
He was arrested in his home?
He was arrested, yes, I believe at home, or he was arrested and taken to his home. He has lived at home with his mother and dad. He's in the same house that he's lived in his entire life, and still lives in the bedroom that he grew up in. Yes, ma'am.
Can you talk a little bit more as far as the importance of parents, like you touched on, playing an active role in what their kids are doing online, especially on Facebook? Because this wouldn't have been possible if those parents didn't step forward and took an active role.
You know, I was asked to explain about this being an active role and the importance of parents taking an active role. Every time we do an undercover operation, and we've done many, and we've arrested hundreds, we always say the first line of defense is mom. The first line of defense is mom. If we wait until this reactive investigation occurs, then the victims have already been victimized and can be physically and certainly emotionally scarred forever. In this case, mom proved to be this young man's hero just one more time in life when, and I credit him for going to his mother and say, this is just not right. So we've stopped him. We've stopped him today, and we want to stop him for the rest of his life. And that's going to be dependent upon the community to tell us, what has he already done? Coaching a hockey team, owning a hockey team, and it just happens to fall in to the same teenager ages that he's interested in. In my world, we call that a clue. So we need to all work together and lock him up forever. Any other questions?
Sheriff, I don't know if you have a personal Facebook page, but I think a lot of the accounts, when you contact someone, you have to accept their friendship in order to start messaging with them. Do you know if these boys did that? And was that the right move?
I don't know if that occurred, but very well if he represented himself, and he did early on in the conversation as a hockey coach, as a sports coach, and those kids were interested in hockey, that might not have been out of the way to have wanted to chat with somebody over the Facebook about sports. But as you know and I know, he used sports to lure these kids. Let me say that again. He used sports to lure these kids. Does that sound familiar? I think of Sandusky. Does that come to mind to anyone? We've got to be careful. I encourage young men and women to be involved in sports, but mom and dad need to be right there with them. Because after all, once again, we've arrested a coach. Once again, we've arrested a coach that did really bad things, second-degree felonies, and encouraged these kids and thought they were coming to Massachusetts this weekend.